I'd rather create something that others criticize than create nothing and criticize others.
If you have high quality product behind the bar, it's like a weapon.
It's not about the figures. It's about who those figures are.
The Hospopreneurs Podcast.
I'm going to drink this beer.
Yeah, let's crack them.
With James Henderson.
Hello and welcome to episode 33 of the Hospopreneurs Podcast. Growing up all over the world and experiencing every angle of hospitality, Jimmy Burchett is the new venue manager of Boilermaker House in Melbourne CBD, part of the Speakeasy Group. Jimmy and I first met at the Ugly Duckling in Richmond, and today converse over topics as wide and varied as glassware design and the creation of memories, to cultural differences and the application of creativity. Relax and enjoy. Hello and welcome to the show, Jimmy.
Hey man, how are you?
Very well, thank you, mate. Thank you for joining us today. For the first question, I like to open the show with, I want to ask if you have a crazy hospitality story.
I've been thinking about this since you contacted me actually. I was like, oh my God, I've had some weird stuff happen to me. My favorite weirdest one was like still when I was living in Perth. I might have still been in high school, so it was like maybe 2003. I was doing like a lot of backstage work for like the guys that do Big Day Out and used to do Soundwave and like all those big like metal gigs. And they were touring a Perfect Circle at the time. And I was like working in like the catering kind of section, doing food for all the roadies and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't often we got to see the bands, but then like all of a sudden the whole place was cleared out and it was just me and my mate. Perfect Circle walk in and they just sit down and like start hanging out. So it was like Maynard, one of the guitarists from Marilyn Manson's band, James Iroh, who used to be like the lead guitarist for Smashing Pumpkins. They all just sat down and we were like chilling, and me and my buddy were like serving them food and drinks and whatever, and they were like, hey, do you guys want to sit with us? We're going to play Uno. I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. Yes, I will sit down. And
Yes.
So we sat down and like chilled, and I was like, man, I was a huge fan of Pumpkins when I was a kid, like when I lived in Indonesia. I just wanted to say I really, really love your stuff. And he was like, dude, do you want me to teach you how to play some songs on guitar? Because I like know how to play. And he was like, yes, I would love for you to do that. And yeah, it was amazing. It was real wild.
That's awesome. Did you learn anything while you were playing with them, or were you just starstruck?
No, I was pretty starstruck.
Yeah.
I learned that I wasn't as good at Uno as I thought I was.
That's an awesome story, dude. Thank you very much for sharing.
No, that's cool, man.
Jimmy, I want to ask you why you do what you do. What is it that really inspires you about hospitality?
Some days I question that myself. I don't know. I really like making a memory for people. I've always put people before me. I've always made sure people have had a good time and good memories. That's even when I was still writing music and touring and stuff. I would always make sure that people would walk away from my shows with the best memories of my music and stuff. Because I've been in like hospitality since I was like 12 or 13, and my family's like all hospitality based, it's kind of ingrained in me to make sure that the people around me are having the best possible time that they can. So that's really what I like doing, is just creating amazing memories for people that they will hopefully remember forever.
I think that's actually the first time on the show it's come up as specifically about memories. I really like that concept because this is going to sound grim, but like when we're old, that's all we have. All we have is memories, you know, and we can't do anything else. So we have to live with the memories that we've built over our lifetime.
Going a little bit off topic, but I like to experience as many possible different things in life as I can, just so I know I've experienced and made the most of my life, I suppose. Going back to that, like working in some of the bars and restaurants that I've worked in, that's like what I've strived to do. I don't know, I think it's like a key aspect. If you're in the hospitality industry, you should be striving to do that for your patrons.
Yes. We're going to delve a bit more into your experience a little bit later in the episode, actually in a couple of questions' time. But my next question for you, Jimmy, is what do you do? Tell us a bit about what you do.
So at the moment, I'm the venue manager at Boilermaker House. I started there about 8 or 9 months ago. I've wanted to work there since they opened the doors. Day one, I walked in and was like, this is my favorite bar in the world. I want to work here. And I also wanted to work for the Speakeasy Group, who own ODV and now Monia. I wanted to just work with the team at all of their venues for years and years and years. It's taken me quite a while to build up my skills as like a hospitality person, not just as a bartender, to actually get to the stage where I'm capable of running one of their venues, I suppose, and hopefully evolve from there, which would be really nice. But yeah, at the moment, I'm just at Boilermaker House, making sure everyone's having a good time, drinking good whiskey and having good food.
We do have listeners outside bartending, and I'm glad that you, in your answer there, you said that your skills apply across all areas of hospitality. We do have listeners outside of bartending and then also outside of Melbourne, so where you're calling in from today. So can you tell us a bit about Boilermaker House and even about the Speakeasy Group?
Boilermaker House, we're having our 3rd birthday next year. When they opened, they won Best New Bar in Australia. The year after, they won Best Whiskey Bar in Australia. And this year we just won Best Craft Beer Specialty Venue in Australia. So we specialize whiskey and craft beer. Usually have about 12 different rotating craft beer taps, usually about 50 or 60 more cans or bottles in the fridge. At the moment, last time I checked, I think we're sitting at around 950 plus whiskeys on the back shelf, which can be quite intimidating for customers that come in and they don't really know what to expect. So the team is all very clued in on the whiskeys and beer chat, but they're also very empathetic to our customers. Like if people want bloody Lefroy and Coke, you give it to them. Like you don't question it if the customer gets what they want. A lot of people don't know that much about whiskey and they're quite intimidated about it. So we always go in there with an open mind and we never look down upon people when they seem like uneducated about the subject, because our job is to educate them on the subject and make sure they're having a fun time while they're doing it as well.
The last time I was down there, Boilermaker had, I think it was about 800 whiskies. That was nearly a couple of years ago now. So glad to hear that it's grown, because the goal was to get to 1,000 and make a rail up the top. I don't know, that's probably been installed now so that you guys can fit it all in there.
Yeah, we've got the rail up the top. When I was 3 months in, we were just shy of 1,000, but the volume fluctuates all the time because of, like, all the independent bottlings, you can't get them again. So you just like try and keep rotating, I guess, and getting new product in. It's sometimes like so hard to find the same whiskey that you're like, God damn it, I really like that whiskey I had a year ago. Oh, it's 600 euros on eBay or whatever, and so I ain't getting that.
I wanna actually ask you, because it came up in Giancarlo Mancino's episode. I can't remember off the top of my head what episode number that is, but he argued for bars with much smaller product offerings, obviously because stock take's going to be a headache. Well, actually, I think that was his main argument. His main argument is stock take is a real headache and it just makes it easier and less confusing. Obviously, space and whatnot. But what do you think about that?
I guess everyone has different opinions, and like I'm not going to say that's a shit opinion, but in my opinion, that's a shit opinion. I feel like not so much bigger is better, but the better selection you have, the better. There's so many whiskeys in the world, and there's so many amazing whiskeys in the world that you want to have as many as possible. Why not? If you can do it, why not?
I guess so. I guess that's true. Congratulations on the role, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, when I was down there, it was I went to visit Rob Scott, who's actually going to be coming up on the show soon.
Oh, recently. He's in Singapore.
Yes, indeed. We'll have an episode from Singapore, and I believe he's working with James Hughes, which is going to be really cool too. The next question I want to ask you, before we get carried away talking about friends and Boilermaker House, I want to ask you how you came to do what you do.
Well, like I said, my family's been in the industry for, like my dad mainly. He's been a hotelier for most of his life. So he used to run a lot of the Four Seasons, the Regent, Marriott, 5-star hotels. So I kind of grew up in hotels and grew up in restaurants and bars. Mum always told me not to go into hospitality. She was very anti it. She said, don't end up like your father, because you'll end up working all the time and you'll end up hating your life. But I work all the time, but I love my life. So it's kind of worked out. I started in my aunt's catering company when I was 12-ish or 12 and a half. I just like went in, washed dishes, and was essentially like a prep cook, I guess. I ended up working there for 5 or 6 years, and I did educational stuff. I started my chef's apprentice and like did all that kind of stuff through there. And through that catering company, I was able to like learn a lot of, aspects about the food industry, the restaurant industry, and like private functions and event planning. And being able to learn all of this at such a young age was, I guess it was a huge advantage, because I could, if I wanted to, when I turned 18, I could have just gone straight into running venues and managing bars and whatever. That didn't end up really happening, because I ended up going into the music industry for a while until I moved to Melbourne, and then I jumped back into the hospitality industry. My first real like bar gig was in Thailand when I was 17. So it's been a pretty long journey, but I'm pretty happy where it's ended up so far.
Yes, and there's also something else that I want to get you to talk about a bit more, and that's Menace to Sobriety.
Ah, yes, the Menace. That initially just started as like a bit of fun. I just wanted to do bar features and cocktail stuff just on Instagram. It was more like a platform, not just for myself, but for like my kind of group of friends that were, I don't know, advancing quite well in the cocktail industry. And I just wanted to like support the people in the industry around me and like post photos of their drinks, post photos of their bars. And then it kind of like took off a lot bigger than I thought it would, and ended up doing some stuff with West Winds, like doing some stuff with Denver and Liley and Amara Montenegro, and like hosting events for these brands as well and doing cocktail competitions, which was real fun. Ended up doing a lot of consultancy. So it just became this massive melting pot of ideas. In the long run, it turned into like an events organizational company as well as a consulting company. But at this stage, it is on hold until next year because I was still trying to find my footing at Boilermaker House, but totally locked into there now. So come January next year, I think I'm doing a couple of more events with a few brands, but I'm going to keep that a little bit on the DL.
No worries. We've heard a bit about competitions from bartenders on the show, and we delve pretty deeply into it in those episodes. On a cursory level, what advice do you have for bartenders specifically who want to place and win cocktail comps?
Oh, this is something that I've been kind of debating with a bit of like an inner debate because I used to enter them all the time. I would always get in like top 100 or top 50, but I never win anything. And I was like, what's the point? In the end, you have to find that meaning in that cocktail competition scene. And it's like, what do you want to achieve out of this? And in the end, I was like, I'm not going to achieve what I want to achieve. Like in the end, it is just for bartenders to get their name out there and be noticed, I suppose. So I don't know, if you're anything like I was, I would say, and you want to make that your life, be a cocktail bartender, that's totally fine. I've got like no qualms with that, but just never, ever give up and always be accepting of others' criticism. Because the one thing that you can't do is not take criticism from anyone, like judges, patrons, anything. You must accept their criticism because they're the ones that are buying your product in the end or supporting you in the end.
Thank you for that. That was a really good, well-rounded answer. I really appreciate that. And I don't want to delve too deeply into competitions because we go into it in a lot of other episodes. So you obviously mentioned you've lived in Indonesia and then in Australia. You've worked in music, in bars and growing up around bars and restaurants. What has that experience taught you, and that even the international experience, or how has that cross-pollination affected your knowledge and development?
Being able to grow up in so many different countries with all the different cultures has really helped me, I guess, be more understanding of the people around me. You go to I guess Thailand and Indonesia have similar kind of culture, but it's just different in tiny ways. But then you come up to places like here or Perth, and it's totally different. The drinking culture here is so different to Southeast Asia or even the States and Canada. Like it's a massive, massive difference. I don't know, this might not go down too well, but I feel like Australia is probably one of the least accepting countries in the world of like other cultures. And it kind of shows in that mentality when people are going out and getting on the Raz and like having a party, and I feel like there's a lot of culture clash. I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling on that one a little bit. Being able to have had that experience around the world has confused me.
Now you've confused me. No, I am following, and that makes sense. I'm just interested in your mentality behind it because you have had that experience. So you obviously, you're talking about Asia versus America. Have you done much in Europe? Have you seen what the scene's like in Europe too?
Yeah, man. When I was in Europe, I wasn't quite hospitality career driven. I was still music driven, but I was still very interested in. I've always been passionate about food and booze. I love it. It's been my life forever. Yeah, I saw quite a lot of restaurants and bars out there. But like I said, it was when I was 19, so I'm sure it's changed a lot. I haven't been back to Europe in 10 years. So I guess my opinion from when I was 19 or 20 would probably be completely different to my opinion now.
The reason that I ask a bit about the cross-pollination is because there's a concept that I've sort of coined. I call it the Venn diagram of knowledge. So say you work in a restaurant and you learn about a particular set of things. Then you go work in a bar, you learn a particular set of things. You work in a cafe, you work and you learn a particular set of things. And imagine that you're placing circles on this Venn diagram. You get this overlapping knowledge, which is the core knowledge to success in hospitality, because you see what they all do right or do well. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to drill down a little bit into that. If there's anything that you've uncovered in there, I mean, we're going to get to that a little bit later in the episode, but nearing the end. But what core knowledge have you taken away from all that experience?
Because like you said, I have worked taking experiences from like different sorts of parts of the industry, and I've been in like every parts of those industry, like restaurant, cafe, bars, management, like everything. But then going into like the multiculturalism thing, I feel like it sounds real shit and simple, but like everyone just needs to be a bit more understanding of each other, not just in like the industry, but like the world in general. Now we're getting deep. Everyone in the world just needs to be a bit more understanding of each other, whether it's like race, the color of your skin, what you like to eat, what your favorite drink is, what you don't like to eat. People just need to be understanding of that, and I don't know, just like help each other out, I guess. And that's like what hospitality is, I guess, in the end. It's like being understanding of what your customers do and don't like, and you help them try and find something they do like, I guess.
Yes, and that's something that you sort of touched on a little bit earlier. So say a patron asks for, a super expensive whiskey and they want to mix it with Coke, then we mix it with Coke. That's what we do, like as any hospitality professional, you serve your patron or customer as they like to be served. Basically, that's it. That's what we're paid to do.
Save your criticisms and judgment for knockoffs with the team after.
Yeah, that's fair. Also, I want to open that question up a little more because we've stayed negative. Let's go with some positive stuff in terms of what venues do well that you've taken away, that you now possibly apply or are trying to apply.
I've been pretty fortunate with like the people that I've worked with in the past. It was my second bar job in Melbourne. It was a bar called Workshop. It's on Elizabeth Street. It's still there. It's really cool, like a uni, I guess you'd class it as like a uni dive bar kind of thing, but it's one of those dive bars that is done really well. And I was there for 2 years, and the venue manager, Graham, who's he's like the ops manager for the company now. He taught me a lot on how to deal with people a lot. It was like that place was like a party den. So you'd have so many intox, people on drugs, all that kind of stuff. But he taught me a lot on how to deal with people like that. And then going into cocktail bartending, this is like years after, I was at Ugly Duckling with Nick Salvadori, who taught me heaps about dealing with a completely different type of clientele, which is like the Richmond clientele, which I don't know, I guess you could say the people that like go to the footy, but then you've got the people that actually go to the races and sit in box seats, and they're like kind of like thinking of themselves as like upper middle class, I guess, dealing with that type of clientele. Like he taught me a lot about making cocktails as well. So I was kind of becoming a better cocktail bartender and a better server, or a better face to talk to for the people, I guess. Going into Speakeasy Group and Boilermaker House, I'm very fortunate to be working with Jack Soddy, who is the king of making people's nights and giving them great memories to look back on. Like, he is Jack Soddy. Like, it's a running joke in the venue, but like, he is Jack Soddy, and he's like the heart and soul of Boilermaker House. His style of service is probably one of the best in the industry, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to work there, to work with someone who's as like-minded as I am, and I want to learn how to be as passionate as he is. Yeah, just dealing with different types of personalities, I guess, has been like my biggest like not learning curve, but what I've appreciated learning most about being in this industry.
And I say this on the show all the time, that can be applied anywhere. It doesn't just have to be hospitality. It can be in any area of business or your career, dealing with people.
Yeah, exactly. In a way, we're all salesmen, I guess. we're just booze salesmen in the end. Everyone that I've worked with is all very capable of doing their jobs. And like the next tier, I guess, going from like a cocktail bartender, you have a couple of different alleys you can take after that. And you can just keep doing cocktail bartending, or you can go into management, which is what I've done, like venue management, or you can go into like a brand ambassador role, or like a sales rep role, which is what my old mentor and friend Nick Salvadori did. He's ended up at Bacardi now, which is awesome for him. Once you've reached that peak as like a bartender, the avenues you take after that are very important as to what you want to do, because like right now, as like a venue manager, you have 2 or 3 different avenues to go down after that. You can end up being a shareholder in the company, or you can go and open your own venue, like on your own, or you can open a venue with that company, or just, keep pottering along and get real bored and stay doing the same thing all the time.
I like that you sort of articulated a lot of the available options to people in the industry. But what I also try to make clear through the show is that there are so many other avenues available that either aren't spoken about and that people don't know about, or that haven't actually been created yet. So there are things that are going to be coming through into hospitality that are in the business world now, the tech world, and I try to bring awareness for that through the industry too. So that's something that I try to really make clear through the show, because some of the guests that I've had have been from totally different areas, a lot of them in bartending, because that's what I come from, but totally different areas. And there are so many things that are going to come about, whether it's through social media or through the management side, or people might want to do like work in a marketing company for hospitality, or work with brands specifically, like you mentioned, like Bacardi or Diageo, etc. That's what I try to really make clear on the show. But anyway, I'm getting on a bit of a rant. Let's get back to my next question, which is, you mentioned that you have a lot of experience in music as well, and that's a real passion of yours. How do you apply that creativity into your hospitality work?
That's what a lot of my friends used to ask me when I ended up like retiring as a musician. That was when I started like diving really deeply into like doing cocktails and doing like real weird cocktails. And I was like, this is my creative outlet now. And I still do that, and I still love creating cocktails. It's not as important as running the venue for me. And like at this stage, like being creative with the venue it's really interesting, because I haven't done like events, like event planning on this scale for quite a while. So I'm trying to think of like really imaginative events that we can do next year, and just different ways that we can improve people's experience in the venue. Like we want to exceed people's expectations, and how we can make the team achieve that. Like that's my creative outlet now, is like, how can we exceed expectations on every point possible within our venue.
Yes, and you also make it clear there that that creative framework can then be used anywhere. You can work within bounds in management and apply that creative thinking to solve other problems. So it's about that fundamental creative process. What is your creative process and the steps that you take to make your ideas a reality?
I'll give you an example, because I think this is a pretty good one. Like I've always been passionate about like glassware and design, which comes from like being passionate about fashion, I guess. I like pretty things. I'm not ashamed to say it. One of the events that I'm planning on doing next year at Boilermaker House is focusing on like the science of glassware and design. And that's just coming from really enjoying like the different designs of glassware. Like in my cupboard at home, I've got a myriad of different types of whiskey and wine glasses. None of them are the same. I have not one matching pair, which frustrates my wife. Yeah, so like going off of that, you just like whatever you're passionate about, you can roll with it. So we're doing like so the science of glassware with whiskey, and like how the glassware affects whiskey, how it affects the drinker's enjoyment of it. So yeah, you can literally like create something out of, well, not thin air, but a pretty vague idea.
You can create out of thin air. If you really want something, you can go and create it. What I want to try to extract here is, what is it that you do to get into that creative state to then let ideas flow?
Well, usually my best ideas come to me during knockoffs.
Yeah. The best and worst.
Yeah, definitely the best and worst, or some corkers. This idea literally came to myself and our head of whiskey. Like, we were just chatting, having a whiskey, and I had one of the Denver and Liley glasses. I was like, just in my head, I'm like, I've always thought it was really cool how they designed the glass to, I guess, in their eyes, improve the drinker's experience on whiskey. And then Jeff was like, oh, have you tried the Norland glasses or the Cradle Mountain glasses? And I was like, oh, I actually haven't. And then that got my mind ticking. So I was like, I really want to try all these other glasses. So I found them all and I was trying them. And then that's when like the idea came. So like most of the time, like my best ideas are complete accidents, which is nice. And then like once I'm at that like pinnacle twisting, like turnover stage, I can do an event on this like particular idea. It only takes one little thing to start off like a trigger. And it just builds and builds and builds. Like this has taken me like 2 months to actually come up with like the full concept and like put the paperwork together and send it out to all the companies. And then hopefully they think it's a really cool idea and all say, yes, we want to be involved. This is what we need from you. And then that's when we start negotiating on everything, I guess.
Thank you for stepping us through that, because it's really valuable to a lot of people to sort of see even that process for something that you've done. A lot of ideas do come like that. They just by sheer happenstance, and I think that having a bit of booze can, not too much booze, but a little booze can
just enough.
Just enough. That's right. Can help grease the cogs, so to speak. So grease the gears. But thank you very much for taking us through that. I want to ask you next, what innovations have you seen in the industry?
The biggest one at the moment, it's not so much an innovation, it's more of like we care about the world and we don't want to fuck things up. A big one in like not just the bar industry but the restaurant industry as well is like sustainable venues. I think White Lion in the UK was probably the biggest ones that are known for it at the moment. It's pretty much just comes down to like zero waste. You don't want to be throwing out straws so you get steel straws. You don't want to be using like cocktail napkins for like the million cocktails that you serve every night, so you get reusable coasters. The skins of each fruit that you juice every night, save the skins, make a syrup or a shrub out of it. It's like the little things like that that I think is going to make a real, not like a real big difference on just our industry, but it's hopefully helps the world, and it can, like our industry can be like a leading force in that sustainability kind of thing for the world, showing people that we shouldn't be wasting all these things because A, you don't need plastic straws or napkins or any of that other bullshit. You can reuse things, and B, the stuff that we have, like the remnants of that, can be used for other things. It's the same in kitchens. Like once you've finished with like the meat on the bones, you can make like bone stock from the leftovers and stuff.
Sustainability has been a really strong argument more recently, and in this case a trend that is positive, because there are a lot of weird fads and trends that come through and you're like, oh man, why does that exist? But this is a really good one. Obviously it's going to help as much as we possibly can. You mentioned White Lion. I think Ian Griffiths is doing his tour with Trash Tiki at the moment. Yes, so he'll be, I don't know, he's probably been down there in Melbourne already, but he was just up here in Brisbane and I had the opportunity to meet him, and hopefully he's going to be coming up on an episode in 2018. I want to ask you next, Jimmy, what is your number one industry resource?
If I'm not learning at my workplace, then I need to I've either learned as much as I can from that particular workplace, or I'm not doing my job right. My biggest resource is Jack Soddy.
I love it.
Because he knows everything.
Okay. I'm going to have a chat with Jack Soddy then. 100%.
Actually, going back onto that, my biggest resource is my team at Boilermaker House, because it's not just Jack. Everyone there is a wealth of knowledge. Everyone is strong at certain things. So it's something that Greg Sanderson, our operations manager, always says, is put the aces in their places. So everyone has a specific set of skills, and they're fucking good at what they do. So that, like, my team is my biggest resource. Like, everyone helps each other out. It's really good.
You mentioned Nick, and also is it Jack Sotti?
Yeah.
You've mentioned those guys, but who else have you learned from on your journey?
When Jeremy Spencer was still running West Winds, like, this is when I first started Menace to Sobriety. He helped me out with a lot of things. It was more like the back of house kind of stuff, and like he was trying to help me find out what exactly I wanted to do with my career, and it was really helpful hanging out with him like once a week. And we'd just go get coffee or we'd go get a beer and just like talk about life stuff, but then it would also turn into career stuff, and he would give me a lot of advice, which is awesome. And it's really nice having those kind of people around you. The younger generation, I think I heard this on one of your previous episodes, like the younger generation of bartenders and hospitality people kind of look up to, I don't want to say people like me because I'm a horrible role model, but people like Andy Filth and Jack, and like people that have won world class and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, like people don't need to be super well known in the hospitality international world. I don't know, they just need to be there for you and give you good advice, I guess. Like Jeremy's like, he is well known. He's like West Winds, he does Colonial now. He was a wealth of knowledge, and he was very helpful and understanding with me when I was going through like a bit of a confusing time on what I wanted to do. So you just need to find that person that has the knowledge and has the time for you, I guess.
What advice do you have for someone who does want to find a mentor? How do you go about doing that?
I guess most of the time, 9 times out of 10, like the people that are well known in the industry and have like a very solid career in it will more likely seek them out rather than the other way around, if you know what I mean. Which is what happened with Jez. He sought me out. The same with Nick Salvadori. He sought me out. If you associate what you kind of want to do and like aim for the direction of where your mentor or who you consider your mentor to be, if you aim in that general direction, they will undoubtedly recognize what you're doing, take respect in it, and hopefully take you under their wing and guide you through your like the weird part of your career where you don't know what the fuck you're going to do with your life. I don't know if I want to open a bar or a restaurant, or I just want to keep bartending. They will be there to like guide you through that sticky part of it. Aim down a similar pathway to what you think your mentor was doing. Then hopefully either them or someone very close to them will take you under their wing and hopefully guide you.
I think it's important in that process to have some sort of exchange of value so that you're giving something to them, because otherwise it seems very one way. It's like, oh, I want to learn from you, but what do you need to think about? So as listeners at home, you need to think about what it is that you're giving to that person, what you have to offer for them.
Like when I was going through that stage, I was like, I wasn't young, but I was very like, I always think outside the box. Like it's just like having really weird theories on things and weird ideas, and like with cocktails and events and that kind of stuff. Because I like kind of, I guess I came from a different city, and like I was a musician before, and I used to do event planning for more rave parties rather than cocktail parties. So when I was working with Nick Salvadori, he took me in at Ugly Duckling to be his head bartender, and like he mentored me a lot. But he would always say that we're like yin and yang. We work in perfect symmetry, but we are the fucking opposite in how we work. He was very meticulous at cocktails and stuff, and I used to play things fast and loose, but all the time, like 9 times out of 10, both of us would end up coming together and making like beautiful things happen for our venue.
That's really interesting as well to find people who, so on one hand in your answer there, you said find people who are similar to you and what you want to do, and the answer at the end there was someone who's mentored you has been totally different. So
yeah, it is a bit odd, but like in saying that, where my career path was going down a very similar style of his, because he's heavily cocktail focused. He's done world class, used to be a cocktail ambassador for Belvedere. So I was like, that's the shit that I want to do. I want to be in magazines. I want to do cocktail comms. I want to be like a head cocktail bartender somewhere. That was his journey. So I kind of just sort of aligned myself up with that for quite a long time.
What's your biggest challenge right now?
Man, I don't want to say that I'm scared for what comes next, but I am where I want to be right now. But what's next for me is hopefully opening another Boilermaker House. But like the biggest challenge with that is, it sounds like a therapy session now, but but ever since like I was a kid, I've always thought that I've never been good enough for like what I'm doing. I've always been very hard on myself, and to finally be somewhere where the Speakeasy Group is like, yes, you are more than good enough. You are fucking amazing at your job. We love having you here, and we respect you as an industry person. It's very hard for me to accept that, I guess. My biggest challenge right now is just accepting the fact that I am good at my job and I'm capable of running venues and still being an industry person outside of Speakeasy Group, doing Menace next year. But yeah, the biggest challenge is going to be hopefully opening my own bar and learning all the crazy bullshit that goes with that.
And does that mean, so my next question is ultimately, where do you want to be?
I can't see myself living anywhere other than Melbourne, or like at this stage, and which is why I want to open venues. Like I want to open venues here, hopefully with Speakeasy Group, but if not, then so be it. But yeah, I want to open at least 2 venues here. I've already got like concepts for it. They should stick to the Speakeasy guidelines, hopefully. But yeah, that's what I want to do, man. I want to stay in Melbourne, open venues here, and hopefully, if and when the names of those venues get successful enough, go to London, go to Paris, go to the States. Like I would love to have bars around the world. But yeah, that is going to be a challenge.
Of course, that'll be amazing. What are you doing to achieve that?
Reading a lot. Reading a lot. I'm learning a lot through Greg Sanderson, who's our operations manager. He runs everything through Speakeasy Group, from ODB to Molnier to Boilermaker House. And they're opening a number of venues next year. I think they've got like 3 new openings. And just seeing him as an operations manager for the entire group when there's that many venues is just something that is amazing to, like, it's an amazing person to learn from, I guess.
Yeah, what are you reading as well?
Just articles on not how to lose money in venues.
Yeah.
There's a really good one on, I was just reading it before, Sven Almaning, who's the I guess the boss of Speakeasy Group. He's been in the industry forever, but he's really good on his financial modeling for venues, trying to predict what's going to happen with them. He's almost like got the sight.
Yeah, right. You must have a crystal ball.
Yeah, I know, right? It's coming up with that concept is going to make things work for you. And working with these guys, have got their concepts down pat, and they know what will and what won't work. And they kind of see 10 years into the future and make sure their venues are still going to be, I don't know, hashtag on trend.
There's so many more questions that I want to open that into, but I'm going to get to the end of the episode and just want to ask you a quick fun one to end it up. You worked in so many bars. I'm sure people come in and they ask you this question. When they have the hiccups, what is your hiccup cure?
Hiccups?
Every bartender has a hiccup cure.
Far out. What was my last one? Max Allison told me Fernet Menta is a good one.
Yep.
He's my bar manager. He's an amazing dude, but he's a Fernet Branca fan, but he reckons Fernet Menta, have a shot of that, and soda water on the side, you'll be totally fine.
Fix you right up. Awesome. Thank you very much. It's been awesome having you on the show today, Jimmy. Really cool to have a chat, and I'm excited to see the awesome things to come for you.
Thank you so much for having me, man.
Stay in touch with the show after hours at Hospopreneurs on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. Do you know a hospopreneur? Shoot us an email, hospopreneurs@gmail.com. Creativity and innovation in hospitality. The Hospopreneurs Podcast with James Henderson.